and your level of involvement with global water dances in the chat, please.
Okay. Chat.
Chat. Okay. So I'm gonna get started. Maybe it's just the 9 of us today, and that is okay. So we have more time to talk. Denmark, Lynn, is this the first time I'm on a call with you by any chance?
Yes, this is my first time.
Welcome. Let's all welcome
Thank
Lynn,
you.
our first timer. Zooming in from Denmark. Paula's coming in originally from Italy, but in London right now. Okay. So I'm gonna put something in the chat now. Please forgive me in advance. I might have to, hi CJ, I might have to resubmit that information in the chat as more people come in later. But this is a little structure for today. Ignore that last part. Those minutes were for my orientation. But here we are, together again, bright and early for most of us, I think. We are going to see a clip from our guest speaker, Matt Reeves, as an inspiration and a focus for our day. And then we're going to watch a rebroadcast of the webinar that he did with Vanya, our artistic director of Global Water Dances, yesterday. And that's about 45 minutes. And throughout that 45 minutes, I'm going to ask you to write in the chat questions, concerns, things that excite you. We have a filmmaker among us. Ayman, feel free to share your expertise. Some of you have also jumped into the realm of dance video and dance film. Feel free to share your expertise as well, and any resources. So, and then after the 45-minute presentation, I should say, while the presentation is going on, I will be responding to your chat as well, but feel free to crosstalk. Normally, I don't like to do that, but because it's a rebroadcast of a webinar that already happened, I think it's okay. It's an experiment, we'll see. And then after the presentation, if there are any questions that were not answered, we can try to figure that out together. I could send those questions to Matt. He's already told us that he's very happy to continue to be a resource to us. We can chat a little bit more as we feel necessary, and then we can move a little bit. And I can introduce you to the global dance. And for our returning site leaders, the global dance is adjusted this year. It used to be an 8-minute or so dance. Now it's going to be a 5-minute dance. So I just want to give you a chance to put that in your bodies a little bit toward the end, and it'll be a good way to say goodbye. If for any reason you have to leave, don't worry, the recording of Matt's webinar with Vanya will be made available to you within the next day or two. I think without further ado, I want to dive in. Does anybody want to say anything first? So the name of this webinar, it's a global themed webinar, And it's really about connecting and building our community, our global community, using technology. And we thought this was super important because it's fun, but also because we are doing this work in the middle of a pandemic. And we're not sure during the week of June of our festival, June 8th to 13th, we're not sure if we are going to be allowed in our respective sites to have big outdoor performances with lots of people. We're just not sure. We hope, and I encourage you to send the intention out that we will be able to do that. But we also want to structure for success and figure out a way to still do this work, this important work with each other. And so that's why we came up with this idea of doing an online version of Global Water Dances. And we wanted to challenge you because we have received beautiful videos, and we will continue to receive beautiful videos where the point of the video was to show the work. Please continue to do that if you feel comfortable doing that, if that's something you want to do. But we wanted to have Matt talk a little bit about how these videos can be an extension of the creative process. How, in addition to sending dance videos and making dance videos, we can start thinking about making dance films where the choreographic process keeps in mind from the beginning that it will be seen on a screen, where the choreographic process involves the movement of the camera as if the camera is a dance partner. And we just think that that might be interesting. It might be an interesting challenge. It might be fun. And it might be a wonderful way to see everyone's site around the world in a different way. And if you're interested in doing this, you'll send us these videos. The deadline is still yet to be determined, but it's probably going to be mid-May, May 15th, and I'll tell you why in a second. The reason we're asking you to send these videos before June is so that during the festival week, we can share the videos with everybody. So from the start of the festival is the 8th, we would start showing the videos from the 9th, and it'll be a kind of like online festival where people will be able to connect via Zoom. And in a way, if we're not able to dance in our own sites, we might be able to have the opportunity to experience sites all over the world in a new and interesting way. So that's why we want you to send the videos to us in mid-May so that we can curate, we can organize, and then we can add this as a part of our online offering in June. Any questions? Quelques questions? Any initial apprehensions? Any initial excitement before we dive into the nitty-gritty of it? Rena?
Yes. Yeah, well, I don't know if the question is in place now, because I want to ask specifically like about the festival days, about the process and live streaming, etc. And I don't know if the webinar will answer me, actually, you know. So
That's a very, very good question. I'm going to just give you a quick question, a quick answer, but we can elaborate this because the webinar does not answer this. We are going to maintain the ability to live stream on Saturday, June 12th. And more information is going to be coming about that.
well, am I required to live stream? That's my question.
I apologize, I did not understand correctly. You are absolutely not required to live stream. You are absolutely not required to send us a video in May. You're not required to send us a video after your event. These are all options. These are all possibilities. because
Oh,
we have a diverse global community, and we want to make sure that we offer as many possibilities to support
oh,
you and see the work as possible.
oh,
Great
thank you.
question.
Wonderful, wonderful. Because I mean, I understand the situation, but I absolutely don't take this as an option to like do a video dance. I mean, yeah, I like the idea of monitoring and making video as an art project, an extension of the choreography, and I might do that. But for sure, we're gonna dance alive, no matter what. I mean, for sure. It's like I have no doubt, even if there is like very, very small audience.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel important to do this ritual for the water, by the water, for the water, right on the spot, alive with my dancers. And even if I should divide 15 dancers into 3 groups and do like every day, we are
Mm-hmm.
planning to, do like every day on a different spot on
Mm-hmm.
the river, and like do it really as a ritual for the water,
Mm-hmm.
and film it, of course, but I'm not sure about live streaming, and so I might want to send it after, when it's processed.
Wonderful. I hear your passion. I'm inspired by your passion. Yes, I say yes. That's not an option for other people,
Yeah.
and that's okay too. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for setting that intention. And I look forward to celebrating in the same way. I hope to celebrate in the same way. Karen, you have a question?
Yes, yes, for me it's the first time to do that, and I'm not sure at all if I manage the technical things, so how to make the video, and so thank you for the answer you gave to Rena. It's I hope to manage the whole thing, the organization and all that. So and I wanted to dance on 3 days on 3 little rivers beside to have everywhere in my place on the big river Saale and on the little rivers beside. So this will be so hard to do. So I'm not sure if I manage any video or something like that.
Thank
I'm
you for
going,
sharing that.
yeah, I'm going every day to dance at the water at the moment. We have the water going up after the snow time,
Yes,
and
yes.
now overboarding the river. And I like to dance every day for half an hour on the river. So
Wow.
this is my practice. But I'm not used to choreograph anything. I'm only dancing for me with meditation, things like that. So
Mm.
I'm not sure how to do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, I say yes. I will also say that I am a little nervous. I'm mostly excited. I'm a little nervous about doing this process also. One of the ways that I am addressing that nervousness is looking for a videographer so that it's not just me. Building a team to support me, building a team of people that have expertise in their own fields so that I can focus on the dance making, so that I can focus on invoking and saying thank you to the water. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, I hear you, I feel you, and this is one of the things that I'm thinking about to help me. If Ayman Aymar was in Geneva, or if I was in Berlin or in Benin, in Cotonou, we would be working together. I know Narelle is zooming in from Australia. She is, among other things, a photographer and has worked beautifully and expertly with video. If I was in Australia, I would be working with her. So this might be an opportunity, and this is not just directed to you, Karen, this is for everyone. This might be an opportunity to reach out to people you know, or set another intention to gather a team of experts that will help you do this new and interesting thing. You don't have to. I'm just saying that there are options. And I got a hands up from Hannah. And, oh, I think Narelle is, I'm sorry. Wait, let me look at my screen. I'm gonna call on Narelle. Please forgive me if I'm skipping anyone, and then Hannah. And I apologize because this intro was just supposed to be about 5 minutes, but I'm just going with my gut here. I feel like this conversation needs to happen before the webinar. I will shut myself up before too long though, okay? Narelle, please tell us what you'd like to say.
Yeah, hi everyone. I've been doing some filming of some dance work. Yes, I'm a photographer, but just briefly, there's a very simple way to capture film just using your iPhone. There's a very simple way to edit it with an app called Video Leap. I'm really happy to run a webinar for people to talk about how to do that, how to put it together. You can upload soundtracks to that. You can record your voice over that. You can put text on it. It's really simple, and I'm super happy to share how to do that. It's accessible to everybody, as long as you've got somebody else to hold the iPhone for you or set it up on a tripod. You could easily do that as well. But seriously, it is a piece of cake, and I'm super happy to share.
Can you please, we already have requests that you write the name of the app that you just spoke about. And
Sure.
Thank you so much for offering to do that, Narelle. Let's continue to have a conversation. And yeah, it could be self-directed, or it could be something that we set up from the steering committee. If you don't mind being contacted by others, I'm also going to encourage you to put your contact information in the chat. If you would prefer that Global Water Dances organizes, I already know that Narelle has offered this, but if anyone else would like to offer to help the community in any way, definitely let me know, let Vanya know. All right, Hannah, you're up.
Okay, me failing. Okay, so I wanted to just ask 2 questions, but or maybe it's just one question. So you said send the videos possibly mid-May and then showcase still in June. So we would be able to essentially record the same performance we're doing in June. But then also, because we work with kids and it's school holidays and things like that, when we shoot in mid-May, we might not.
Oh no, Hannah froze.
What?
I believe she was gonna say that around can everybody hear me, or am I frozen too? Okay. I believe she was gonna say that the mid-May deadline was not gonna work for her. Yeah, that might be true for others. If it's possible to send it to us before, we'll take it. If you can't send it before June, send it when you can. You know, we're really flexible. The May 15 deadline is just so that we have time to organize things for the festival week. That's what that's all about. All right, I am gonna take a sign that Hannah was frozen, that I should jump into the rebroadcast now. Please continue to put your questions, excitements, concerns, and anything you want in the chat. I'll be following the chat and responding. I'm going to, it's okay with everybody? It's okay? Wonderful. Okay, Hannah's back. While I set up my screen share, I'll ask Hannah to continue her. There you are, you're back, Hannah.
Sorry, it's internet in Africa.
You're back now. You just got cut off when the last thing that we heard, you were saying that May 15 deadline might conflict with the vacation of the students. Was that correct?
No, no, that's not the concern. My concern is what we submit in May, it might
Yes.
not be applicable to the live performance. Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Then you would have two products. You'd have the video work that you did before, which could be a complete departure. It could be,
Okay.
you know, it could be a really a video poetry. It could be. I don't want to give you extra work. Yes, honey. I don't want to give you. Yes, honey. I don't want to give you extra work, but there are many, many options. And then for June, if you are able to just put up a camera to record that event, you can
Be
send
like
that
a live.
after
Yeah.
also.
Yeah, because I think we did that last time. We did live stream, but then we also shot it live so that we could send actual footage. So we sort of want to follow on that same link just to have the documentation as well. But there might be, I think, those changes that we can play with. Okay, thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, great questions. Yes, Narelle. And I will share my screen now so that we can look at this wonderful presentation. And yes, please continue to put things in the chat. I will respond to them as we go along. If you have to leave for any reason at all, we will make this information available to you within the next couple of days. Okay, here we go. Okay. Technology. Wonderful. I look forward to reading your comments. I had a hard time seeing the chat while the video was going on, so I hope that doesn't pose too much of a problem. Matt wanted to make sure that we understood that he chose that video not because he wants everyone to do what he just did. It's more for inspiration. And now we're going to dive into the webinar to see his strategies and ideas for us. Okay. Thank you for your patience. You're gonna see a little bit of Vanya, which makes me happy. Okay, share screen. There we go.
Lord, now I'm going to present our guest of today for the global theme that is about creating community through technology and social media. So we have Matt Reeves, and I'm going to give, yes, the mic to Matt, who was waiting today. And thank you so much, Matt, for being here.
Thank you, Vanya. Yeah, wow, it's an honor and a privilege to be with you all today. I'm grateful to be a part of what Global Water Dance is transforming and considering this year. And it's a gift and a joy to be doing artistic things, talking about artistic projects with all of you in light of the epic world that we live in today. So I was really inspired talking with Vanya that this is a great opportunity not to make do with the changes that are in front of us this year, but to make something new. So everything that I hope I can share with you today from my experience is about taking what is in front of us and making something really that excites you as an artist with it versus feeling like we're being forced into a container maybe that we're not used to. In case it's helpful, Vanya mentioned it a little bit. I am a co-artistic director of Orange Grove Dance, a dance design and film company. And our mission is to bring dance and design and film and the unique artistic process that it involves to all the communities that we engage with. And I work collaboratively with my wife and artistic soulmate, Colette Krogel, who is not here today, but I'm happy to represent us in this sphere. But in case you're curious, I put Orange Grove Dance up there. Feel free to look at our website or reach out if you need to. We're always happy to talk to new people. And some of the resources and things that I'll be sharing, things that obviously are from my experience, but if you want to look at any of those resources anymore, they may be on our website or they might be on our Vimeo page. Great. And then today, maybe I'll see if I can get my screen share happening. Can everybody see this? I need to move that out of the way. Does everybody have a good view of this lovely photo that says dance film considerations for the process? I'll be talking about dance film, which is something near and dear to my heart and something I've been doing inside of our company now since early on in 2007. And just something I want to put out there that is sort of a trope for Colette and I, but we started as a duet company, and partnering is something that's so important to us. But it's not just with dancers and with each other. It really became with the technology. And film was an extension of what we felt was a greater duet that is happening between us as human beings and the technological world that we live in. So if I can contextualize any of this, I hope that if you're not familiar with this process, or if you're coming back to it, or if this is something you've done before, something that we always try to emphasize is the camera as a partner, any technology that you're using as a partner, and how we pick it up and interact with it in our space should be treated as such, treat it like a dancer, and all those beautiful considerations. That's why I think dance is such a beautiful marriage of the dance film world, of the film world. It'll be a lot of things that you're used to already doing. And I think a lot of the euphoria and transcendence that comes with dance exists right here inside of this process and inside this world. So I won't be able to cover everything, obviously, in a short period of time, and no one needs to hear me talk forever. But I'm hoping I'm pointing us to a few things. If you're not familiar with just working with dance through the lens of a camera, these are things that I teach at different various levels and workshops that I hope can frame and contextualize what would be things that you could consider. But please know that there'll be many different ways to extrapolate on these ideas. In the film world, they're always talking in 3 production phases. There's pre-production, production, and post-production. And I make those words less sexy, and I say plan, shoot, edit, export, just to, production is great. It's a great word, and usually there's a lot of big elements that come into it, but what ultimately needs to be executed is a planning phase, your shooting phase, and then there's an editing and exporting phase. And I think it's good, no matter where you are in the process this year of what you might make, to just consider a 3-phase process. I think will really help if you can break down your timelines, give yourself, whether it's a week, whether it's 2 weeks, whatever makes sense for you to do each one of these ideas. Sometimes they all get mixed in together, and things can be done that way. But sometimes it's just a much more satisfying process when you've gone from the planning all the way through to the finish line. I'm going to talk today mostly about the planning phase and the shooting phase versus editing and exporting. And most of the things I'll talk about won't be the nitty gritty of technical information. I'll encourage that and to say I started as a dancer. I'm not formally trained in film or technology, but I've just been working in film and media and projection design for a long time. And there's more resources now than when I started. YouTube and the internet answers almost all of the questions that you may have out there, or can get you very, very close if there's technical things, although I'm happy to answer anything that you might be curious about later. But just to share what I'm hoping will be processing and conceptual things that may help. So we'll talk about planning and pre-production. I really emphasize this as being maybe one of the things that will set up a project, like many things, to be its absolute best. And I say this because once you get on, let's say on set, you're in production, you're shooting the camera, any stone that wasn't left unturned can sort of derail a day of shooting and cannot, it doesn't maximize your time as best that it can. So making careful considerations about how you're going to shoot something and how you're going to plan the event will just make your life a lot easier. And especially if you end up bringing in collaborators or other people that are helping you inside of your work, this is a way to maximize their time and their efficiency. So the first thing that I tell, especially to dance people, this might not be the first thing on everyone's production list, but scout a location, make a dance. Dance on film is inherently site specific. So considering the space and choreography should come first. Sometimes I notice, especially with a lot of younger students and people that I have, that they get very caught up in the equipment and what might be very special about that they can do, and special effects and editing and big ideas. But I oftentimes have to ask the questions like, what is the dance? What is, going back to what are the essential choreography things that we do already, and not forgetting it's important to be the artist first and make the technology serve what your artistic vision is. And this is at the heart of what Global Water Dance has been doing for so long, what so many of you have been doing. I imagine most of your work has been not on concert stages to show water issues, but going out to sites and being near water itself and creating site-specific work that can inspire people to look closer at these issues at hand. But an important element not to forget. And then what I think is exciting about this is with film, location may really open up now in a different way, since you don't have to transport your whole audience to the location that you might be considering this year. You may only need to bring along your camera and equipment. So thinking about if this can open up unique possibilities that you may not have explored in years past would be something that I would hope to emphasize here. And this is also, I encourage people to go to these locations. If you're thinking about it, go ahead and pull out any camera that you have, whether it's the one you're shooting on or not, and do test shots, make the test dance, really experiment in those places to see if it fits what you're hoping for. And oftentimes those test shots, to me, they're the equivalent of creating your storyboard or your script. That might be something that you can reference later that can bring other people that you might want involved in the process, or can just help you really dream up how the puzzle pieces will all come together. A few more things about location that I think could be really, really helpful for anyone and everyone, and especially this year, knowing that many, I work with limited resources all the time. I don't have tons of equipment, and I don't have a full movie crew that can come set up lights for me and always make my performers look like they're in Hollywood. But lighting can be your best friend. And I think it may be your first and greatest consideration. I think there's an advantage if we probably will be shooting a lot of people maybe near bodies of water outdoors. So using natural ambient light is a great asset. And one thing that you can get more from that with is in photography and film, there's magic hour, which is your sunrise and sunset times. And these are really particularly effective at getting the most out of any camera equipment that you have. So it means getting up really early sometimes to take advantage of sunlight, or catching that last hour of it at the end of the day. But what happens is the sun is just setting, and you don't get any harsh shadows anymore, or just rising. And you get a really even spread of light that is very flattering to most people on camera. And it lets your viewer think about things other than the lighting. They're really just falling into what you're showing on camera. You get much more even colors and exposures. So it's just a great way to take advantage of what might feel like limited resources. And this is something that Hollywood does as well. So very few things beat really great sunlight when you find it just right. So when you find that location, considering the time of day that you might be able to shoot there is really important. Things that will mitigate this for you in terms of lighting would be finding shady areas like the one pictured here. You can see that the lake behind one of our performers on shoot here, Juliana, is a little bit brighter and hotter. We've got a lot of contrast there, but the area inside is shaded, and it has evened out a lot of the tones and light that we were using shooting that day. Shade, and then cloudy days actually can be your best friend too. So this may mean if you can be mobile enough or flexible enough with your shoots, sometimes cloudy weather gives you really even light that can be really flattering and can get the most out of cameras and maybe what could be limited resources. But as you're considering your location, really consider what kind of ambient light you could get. And this is another great thing. You can just go test at those times of day that you're considering with your camera. Second biggest consideration that I would offer up is space to move the camera and set up your shots. Obviously, a lot of things could just be set up on a tripod. But if the space is tight, and this may not happen in many outdoor spaces, but it could, if you can get enough distance to really cover your subject, your dancers, to really get the feel of the environment that you're looking for, that could be difficult or not in some places. And then camera movements, which in a lot of, I would say in the dance film genre, camera movement is extra important. It is that partnering, it is that dance of the camera and the person moving that really makes a lot of shots dynamic and is different than when we just document a dance like we're used to maybe from back of house in some situations. It's the thing that will draw the viewer in a really unique way, getting angles, and we'll talk about this a lot, that provide a different sense of intimacy than you would if you were just standing back and documenting something. So just something to consider is, will I have the space to move around? Will I have the space to set up the camera on different angles and different shots? Does this space offer me flexibility that I might be looking for on my shoot day? And again, test, get out there with anything, your phone, and just see what's available to you. Take quick 10-second, 30-second shots. Danceability and safety, just to call out, is something I'm always considering for our performers, because that can, for two reasons. No one wants a performer to get injured or hurt because of things that might be problematic in a natural environment, especially, but even if, unfortunately we have to deal with considerations that people don't respect the environment. There's trash, there's things like that can be in any outdoor public space that could be dangerous. Just making all those considerations. One, you want everyone to be safe. Two, if you run into anything, and you can fix or correct it, but it might delay your shoot, and then you're losing valuable time when the sun is setting or something like that. So just, if you can, making a quick list, even if you don't find anything, at least you did that checklist of like, this does feel like a danceable, safe space. It doesn't look like my dancers are going to turn their ankles. Or if it is bumpy, maybe I need to make sure I get people out here sooner to evaluate and sense the space and figure out what the dance is that is safe here. And then a final consideration, which I would actually say this isn't a huge one, but always something to be aware: access and permission. So whether it's a private space or a public space, just being aware. Sometimes it's great if you know someone that has a private space that's just going to let you shoot or be in that place. Public spaces, usually you can shoot, but being aware that sometimes some of them do ask for permits. If you're staying mobile and you don't set up a lot of equipment on the ground, most of the time that is allowed, even in places like New York City, where I've shot mobile film crews. As long as you're moving and you're not blocking traffic, and not something that if someone asks you to move can't be moved, you usually don't need a permit. But if you are considering a really special location, or it's a public space, it might just be worth looking into what local guidelines might be in place, and if there's anything else that you need to consider. And you might be a way to get great support. Sometimes people want you to do something really unique or interesting in those spaces, or to capture it on film. So I don't always think it's a no, or like you won't find that permission, but just something to check. So again, you don't get derailed. equipment and resources, and this is in no way comprehensive, and they're really huge bullet points, but just to have any kind of checklist to make sure you go through that can save you some time. The camera, you will need a camera for this, and there's so many great consumer options. I don't think anyone needs to go out and buy anything. Most of the cameras on iPhones and smartphones and Android phones today are really, really unbelievable, especially if you're taking advantage of the ambient light that might be available where you are. But just clocking that you have a piece of equipment and that you can get familiar with it. And if you want to do more, I know this is obviously in times of COVID, and I'll speak a little bit more to my experience with this, but if you're thinking of any other collaborators, sometimes this isn't something you have to do on your own. You may be able to talk to a photographer or a videographer that you know. If you know a great photography person that hasn't worked in video much, sometimes they're a great person to bring on. They'll want to collaborate, and they usually have a great eye for lights and some of the things that a camera already needs to do. But just you'll need the camera and you'll need someone to operate it. So even if you're working by yourself, just calling out what that process might be like. I've done it plenty of times where I've had to record myself, but it offers less flexibility in certain ways. So if you're dancing in it or someone else is dancing in it, just acknowledging who will be that person that is tracking the camera, which is at this, it is your audience's eye. So always having someone with eyes on that. And if you're the person directing it, really making choiceful decisions with what you do with the camera is a big deal. A tripod or a Steadicam and or both. Tripods are always worth it, and there's so many different options. Even for the smartphones today, you can find other ways to stabilize and set up your phones. But just making clear and deliberate choices of when you want the shot to be still, when you want it to be moving. There's some really great Steadicam options out there for those that are interested in this process and beyond. There's a company, DJI, that has one for about $120 for smartphones that is really phenomenal for what you get for your money. But if that's not something that's in your ballpark, I always encourage people, you don't need any equipment necessarily to start. And I also love dancers becoming cinematographers, because moving the camera is about moving your body. So many of these shots you can practice and learn how to do without any of this equipment. It's just more taxing on your body, but dancers oftentimes are really great at being smooth and flowing and place holding where the camera needs to be. It just takes a little bit of practice to get those shots. So even before you buy equipment, this would be something you might just want to test with whatever camera you have to see what really works for you. Then I'll say the crew, as it would be called on a lot of sets. But these are just the people that are going to help you. You don't need to have any certain number and people to define in too many different roles, but you may need people that can help you. And I think this will be the biggest thing for everyone to figure out. If you have people within your household that can be these positions, especially during times of a pandemic, depending on what is safe and acceptable in your area, there are advantages that you're shooting outside with people. So working comfortably with a small group of people and masking up, I'm sure, is possibilities that some might be able to consider. And then what you're asking people to do. But you may need that camera operator. You might need someone to run sound. It's always great to just have an extra person that might need to run back and forth from the car. That's a do-it-all person, because there's just things that you forget or don't encounter. Someone that can watch out for you if you're moving in a public area in case other people are in that space as well. So just finding what a workable number of people are that can help you. And again, a lot can be done if it is a decision to do much of this work on your own, but I just encourage you to explore, what are my resources? What are there people that could help me with some of these things? We mentioned this earlier, light, time of day is maybe one of your greatest resources. So just keep considering that. If just ambient light is not the only resource that you have, just consider if you have other lights. Sometimes big work lights that you keep in your garage can be useful for lighting a situation or a scene if you have a particular idea in mind, but aren't necessary. But it's definitely okay to make a quick list of like, what are other resources that I have in terms of light? And this might involve other people on the crew. Sound will be a consideration, I think, for everybody in some form, even if you're going to lay the sound on later in post-production, but just determining if you need to have a microphone to catch any of the ambient sound that might be happening in the environment. If that's not important to you, do you need the dancer or dancers to hear music that you have had composed for any reason for this project? So you might need a speaker that you would bring with you on site to make sure that everyone can access and hear effectively what they're doing. And then music, just to consider, since the ultimate goal for this is to be published online, copyright issues are a big thing on YouTube, and just sharing in general online. I'm guessing and thinking a lot of people have worked with people or have original music made or make their own music at times, so you won't run into those issues, but just making sure you make those considerations so you don't build something that you really love and then have trouble posting it because they blocked it because of music reasons. And then finally, I know this is a lot of larger bullet points, but the costumes and clothing to consider. And I say this just because that's another thing that can maybe derail you if you haven't considered it before going out to shoot that day. Will what everyone is wearing, will it make them pop out of the environment that they're in? Will it allow them to blend in with it? Are considerations to make. And then one unique thing when you're working on camera is really tight patterns. So pinstripes and really tight plaids, and sometimes even really tight polka dots. It depends on the pattern, but they all create a very weird effect on video because of how frame rates work. And you can always do a fun experiment if you think you have a tight pattern, but it does a weird optical illusion on your eye, and it jolts people when they see it on camera. They think about that rather than the beautiful dance that you've made. So it's always good to test the clothing or the costume ahead of time. Usually if they're solids, you're very safe in. And then maybe even considering if there's logos and other things that might be on. It's pretty rare, but sometimes things get, I don't know, flagged as promotional or whatever if you had the logo of the right company on. But it may just be more you don't want that in your video is what my guess would be. Hope we're all doing okay. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm going to keep pushing through. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and I'm going to, hopefully Vanya will help me sort of sort through anything that is dense or uninteresting or not in the right direction for you, and I can come back to it at the end. And I think we're hitting over the halfway point here. I really want to emphasize what you have is great. What you have is great. So many people will get obsessed with the equipment they have or they don't have. And some of the most interesting work that you'll find is people working with limitations. So, and what limitations can be really great because they hone in your choice making. And so if you're really just working on your phone, know it's enough. Just get to know that really, really well. Find out what it does well for your shots. If you do have the opportunity, or if you work in photography or something and you have some other equipment, then that's great. Bring those things in as it feels ready for you. And I just emphasize over and over, get to know your equipment before the day you go out and shoot. So just test. It's like an artist doing sketches, right? We want to do as many sketches as we can before we try to attempt the big oil painting where we're going to bring in the more intense materials that will really have a certain kind of drying time and curating time. So the more you can prepare yourself for what the event will be by doing these quick sketches with your equipment, which is like your paintbrush, I think the more successful and happier you'll be with the product that you'll be able to build. Okay. So we sort of did. That was a super rough, and I definitely missed a lot of points, but those were just some points that I think are really instrumental in process oriented versus some of just the granular technical details. I'll go over a few things when you go to shoot that some of them may seem overwhelmingly obvious, but I always state them just because I've learned through workshops that not everybody has the same vision or access or to how the editing process might go, and so it can affect choices. And then we'll go through a nice shot list that I think is really important just for your framing. The number one thing that I always have to help just a few people with is just making sure that you shoot horizontally. This is the native language that we're used to seeing cinema through. There's nothing wrong with a vertical shot, but all of our players, all of our TVs, everything in this world has been made into this window frame. So unless you're making a really choiceful reason for shooting vertically, because you know you're going to edit together in a very particular way, or you want that look of it being on a phone in that way, you always want to make sure that you rock yourself into the landscape orientation, which this is actually something for even, I would say a lot of photographers that are going into video sometimes even forget to sort of reorient themselves because they're so used to be able to, in photography, shoot in the dynamic orientation that makes the most sense to them. So just check this first if this is something you're not familiar with or getting used to. Always checking your landscape. And keeping all your footage the same, so when you edit it in post, you won't be having issues. And if you're not familiar, this is a concept in film, but not just film, it's really a visual art concept. The rule of thirds is something that I just always bring this up as a general rule that you can feel free to break, but it's always a good starting place. And I find that when people are working cinematically the first time, there's a lot of variables to think about when you set up your shot. But the rule of thirds is a great place to start. And the rule of thirds, in case you're not familiar with it, says it's this grid that we have on the screen. And these points where it intersects right in the middle, they've done a scientific study somehow that says our eyes are drawn to these points whenever we look at a picture, a work of art, or video. Our eyes naturally go to these locations, and they attribute importance to the things that they find in these locations. So just by setting up your shot, and you can see our subject here, this dancer, just on the rule of thirds, it creates those two things. Our eyes are naturally led there. It also creates a point of interest that's not just central. Obviously, putting something in the center will always make it the most important objects in your film, but this offers a way to balance a couple different things, the subject, the dancer, as well as the environment. And I always love it when you leave space to one side, because that leaves space for our imagination, is how I like to think of it. Space for what is going to happen in that place. So these are, it's a place to start for everyone if you're just starting off and looking for ways to set up your shots. And I encourage you, set it up here. If it looks great, shoot it like that. If you set it up here, and it's a good way to go, this isn't what I want. And other framing is an option. I encourage people to, this is a great time to get to know films that you love. And I love to watch other films and filmmakers I love and look at their shots, because they certainly don't obey the rule of thirds at all times, although it may be something they use. If anyone's familiar with Wes Anderson's work, he's always in the center. But there's many different ways to think about this, and sometimes it's just really fun. It's like sketching. Oh, I saw this idea that a filmmaker I really loved did. I wonder if I can recreate that shot. It's a great way to learn about what you like, what you don't like, and what is possible for you. And it can inspire your storyboarding, inspire a lot of things for you. But worst case scenario, if you don't know where to go, rule of thirds is a great place to start tuning your instincts. Okay, this is the final list that I'm hoping to share with everyone today. I call it framing, a cinematic term. For those of us that may or may not have worked in film before, moving the proscenium. So if you're familiar with working in a proscenium stage or how that might work, there's oftentimes a frame in the context of how we've been working. Now, instead of that frame being here and the performers having to just move inside of it, with cinema, we're moving the frame. And then a big thing that I like to emphasize is levels of intimacy that film offers. So as we go through these shots, thinking of it as different levels of intimacy every time we bring the camera closer or further away. And this is something unique that we can do with film that isn't always a possibility in, let's say, a live performance. Maybe it is. Audience can sometimes move forward and back, but film is uniquely set up that we oftentimes jump through these different frames to get different levels of intimacy. The first shot that I'll talk about that we see all the time in cinema is a wide or an ultra wide shot. You can differentiate these a little bit, but I kind of group them together just as a way of thinking about them. And this will be really useful, I think, for global water dances. We're establishing time, place, and mood, distance. These are the concepts that we're establishing beyond just the character dancers in the space. We're establishing context of where we are. And so these can go really, really wide. You can really experiment with how much of the landscape you might be able to bring in. That would be your ultra wide. And like in this one, I don't even see my subject unless my subject is the birds. Here's a different example where we do have dancers and performers inside of the landscape, but you can really see how far away we are. And there's a huge emphasis on the environment, on the trees and the skyline. There's just so many other things that are offered that aren't just featuring the performers, but contextualizing them. I showed this shot. This shot's a little bit in between, but I still consider this a wide personally. Some people might disagree, but the focus is on the landscape for me here. I'm seeing the horizon line and the sky, and it's really setting up environmental factors. Just a few other examples of what this could look like, or one more here. This was a shot we did in Rauma, Finland many years ago, but we're obviously contextualizing this space with the windmill, again, skyline, and we go well beyond any individual one performer as being the subject. The group of performers is the subject, and it's important because it's placing them in context to the environment. So this is, and we're thinking of this as intimacy. So this is one level of intimacy, less intimate with the performers, maybe more intimate with the environment and the context that we're setting up. So if you're looking for that, that's when you want to think about your wide shots and your establishing shots. How can I paint this picture? The next shot that I talk about is a full shot. And this is always very useful in dance. It's going to get the full body as its primary focus and concern. It's not concerned with the environment. It's concerned with getting the full body of your subject. So head to toe coverage. And this is oftentimes great to shoot as people often shoot this as coverage. We see it actually less in cinema, but they shoot it just in case they miss something. You're going to get head to toe coverage of everything that happened. The intimacy level has come in a little bit. We're still going to get different environmental factors, but we're starting to make the subject pop out a little bit more than just the environment. A few examples here of what that could look like, and you can see the range, you know, and again, these categories kind of butt up against each other. It's probably more of a Venn diagram of how each shot works, but the choice that you're making of what you're prioritizing. Am I prioritizing the dancer and the subject in this shot and getting full coverage of their movements? Am I prioritizing the environment? And even just between these two shots, we've come in a little bit, we've become a little more intimate with the dancer at hand. The next shot that I think is really, this is probably my favorite shot, and we shoot a lot when we work on a dance film, is a medium shot, also known as a cowboy shot. And it was actually developed from old Western movies because it was so important to show when a cowboy walked into the saloon, the guns at their hips on their holsters. You had to see that, and you had to see their hat. And for whatever reason, this shot became a really dynamic shot that was not just used in Westerns. It developed in Westerns and became a shot used universally. And it, again, creates a very different level of intimacy. We come in usually at eye level with our subject or character. I think it's a really dynamic shot in dance because one, we get closer. I can still see a lot of movement. Granted, we're losing a little bit from the hips and below, but it's not a shot that you see all the time when you go to watch something live in your mind's eye, when you're watching live dance. It creates a different, this is where we really start to create a level of intimacy with dance that isn't always there in a live situation. We're getting that much closer to the dancer. So we are losing a few things, but important things here, and you know, you've got plus or minus on a few inches. Don't worry about locking it in to any perfect. I can show a couple other examples here, but just reminding yourself, I'm getting from the hips to the top of the hat. I'm getting that full head. I'm getting head coverage and a little bit more in the hips, and it gives you at least a place to start working from if you're looking for that layer of intimacy with the dance at hand. And you can see here, even with these shots, you know, we're still capturing very different environments. We get a lot of the environment as well. They're not limited in their intimacy, but the performer and the environment feel more balanced here in terms of their effect on the audience and the viewer. Just a few more examples. This one's obviously cropped in a little bit more, but for me, it's in that cowboy shot range. And then last but not least, we'll talk about close-up and extreme close-ups. And this is tightly framing a character object. And now we're talking about this level of intimacy, I think, will convey the most emotion and symbolism oftentimes within a cinematic journey that you can take your audience on. So using these shots really choicefully, they're very, very impactful. And this is when we start to get into the head of the performers and the emotional content that they might be experiencing. You can see in this shot, I think this is like a classic, it's like the statue, it's a bust, right? It's from the shoulders to the top of the head is a classic close-up shot, but there's room for variation inside of that, but this is a place that you could start. So this would be a close-up. This would be somewhere in the range of almost an extreme close-up, but we're just cropping the chin and we're just cropping the top of the forehead. If you get too low to the eyebrows, it can sometimes feel weird, but when you just crop the top of the head, it actually puts us as a viewer into the cerebral space of the dancer or the person performing. This becomes, cerebral space that we're sharing together. We're leaning in, we're that much closer to the head of the person that we're observing. And so if you're looking for that, if you're looking to expose those little moments, and again, moments of intimacy that you're sharing with your audience of the experience of what it feels like to be in this environment, these are the shots that will contribute the most to this. Here's a very extreme close-up. You can go as close as the eyes. Some of this will depend on your cameras and focal length, so it's good to get to know your camera and what's available. And maybe it's not always the person. These are just a few other examples. This is obviously a book in space, but if you're shooting outdoors, it could be a great shot of the leaves or a branch or something in the water, or other things that you can use. And now we're doing intimacy with the environment, not just intimacy with the performers. So all of these shots can be applied in different ways. Just a few more examples to show when it's not just dance and whether things can have symbolic or metaphorical meanings when we bring in close up and don't always explain the image, but create provocative images and how tight we get to those. Doesn't always have to be faces, reminding ourselves in dance, the hands, the feet going through the space is really, really vibrant and important. And again, even though the wide shot can contextualize the environment, the close-up can do it as well. We could imagine if this hand was in the water or if it was this hand that was reaching into the mud. These would convey really important things, not just about the dancer, but about the environment. So these shots aren't limited in terms of what their applicability is, but they're just general rules of places that you can start from and see if they lend themselves to the context of your dance and hopefully the greater vision that you have overall. Awesome, that's my spiel. I hope we've left some time for questions.
Hello again, everybody. We're still here together. Lots of information. Take some time to digest. Watch the video again. I didn't see many questions in the chat. Maybe that's because you knew everything already. But why don't we open it up now to some questions and open discussion? We should definitely end by 9:30. I would like to talk a little bit. I would like to move a little bit. And I would like that to end in 17 minutes. If that doesn't work for you, leave with my blessing, email, we will continue the conversation. But for those of you who can stay, let's open up the conversation. Vanya is showing us her video. This is the artistic director of Global Water Dances. So happy. You did a great job yesterday with Matt. Thank you so, so, so much. So let's open up. We can like unmute and let's be a little crazy now. The only thing that I don't like about Zoom is you feel like you can't hear breathing and like interruptions. So unmute, let's be a little uncomfortable and talk over each other for a little bit as we open up the conversations. Paula says it's super interesting, but I guess I will reach out to a collaborator for video editing. That is a wonderful takeaway from this webinar. If that's your takeaway, then so be it. Reach out to a videographer and editor. One of the things Matt said is a photographer might be an interesting collaborator. Ayman Amar, your hand is up. Please share.
Okay, hello everyone. I did not ask any question from the beginning because I want to have a lot of information before to speak. As filmmaker and as film producer, wait, let's say 2 minutes. You can take that. So I want to tell that this video for this year for the Global Water Dance is more on creative videos. So it means films. It means film, not just to show what the choreographer are doing or how they are dancing and so on, but it is to go on creativity way more. And I think that a lot of leaders of this Global Water Dance are not filmmakers, are not storyteller, and all this setup, how to move the camera, all this editing stuff, it is a real production from pre-production, I mean writing, how it will be in visual and so on, how to shoot, how to edit, all this can create confusion, can make a lot of stress. And on the other one, in the other way is to create such a movie, it means also a budget. And that is always my question about the budget, how it will be. Even if it is shoot with iPhone, there are some applications which you have to buy. There are some stuff you have to use to have some stability in your video. And I see in the communication that somebody was speaking about not to produce a mediocre videos because of lack of budget or funding. And I think this part is very, very important to clarify how will be finance all this work. And I think it is all the question which is going into the mind of almost all the people who are here. And me, especially as filmmaker, I always ask myself, with all this crisis with coronavirus and so on, people are not really so much able to create so much contact, but I can tell that in Benin it's not so much complicated, but the people are not so much open to work for free or to be volunteer and so on. So this is my question. On the other side, what I can consult for to tell the story is maybe to use the style of cinema direct, which is like not to make interview, not to sit, but to spend time with the people. It means a lot of days to create some relationship with the dancer and so on. And then on this way, you can maybe get the aim or the spirit of the film which you want to show. And at the end, you spend a lot of time by editing, by choosing how you will tell the story, how you can, which sequences you will choose and whatever. So I think this has to be, yes, creative documenter. And question about the budget, question about the style. The style, I see it is a little free, the style, but at the end it has to be something more into the dancing more than just to show. Not, yeah. So this is what I can tell. Yeah.
And that's spoken by a professional filmmaker, director, and producer. So thank you for that insightful comment. Thank you for that sobering comment. I am not even going to attempt to answer those questions. I'll say that from my, not from my brain, but from another source, I'll share, we are interested in seeing what our community will make of this. It's a challenge that we're posing, and I'm feeling now something that I didn't think about before this meeting with all of you, a sense of responsibility that is attached to posing this challenge, and questions about financing, questions about time. I need some time to digest that. So in the moment before digesting these really important questions and considerations, I will say, let's continue to have conversations about this. Let's continue to, let's keep that tension and see what's going to emerge. For some people, this process will be very difficult. For some people, this process will be very easy. For some people, this process will be very easy, but not affordable. For some people, this process will be affordable and of varying qualities. This is the joy and the challenge of being a part of a global community, living in parts of the world that have different levels of resources, working with site leaders who have different years of experience, engaging in production, engaging in dance making. So let's continue to have these conversations and see how we can support each other. And trust me when I say, trust me when I say that the steering committee is actively working on partnerships now, so that we can either offer funding ourselves or learn about funding opportunities that we can share. And I didn't realize how much more important that would be this year because of this challenge that we're posing to the community. So thank you for, putting my feet to the fire, and let's continue to have this conversation. And then I guess the other thing I would say, and this is from my brain now, no, I won't even. Nothing from my brain. I don't have anything smart to say. Paul and Hannah are back, and we had a raising of the hand. Before Rena, I saw someone raising, I think it was Lynn. Yes, Lynn, then Rena, then Paula.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Yeah, thank you for showing off the film and the presentation. So I have two questions. The one is that it's my first time to do this global water dances. So I know there are a lot of experienced people here. So I would like to ask you, because you get so many ideas. So I would like to ask you, how can you limit yourself? Like, what are good advices for limitations when you have to do your first and plan your first global water dances? And the second question is that that have you cooperated when you did the GWD with nature organizations, like associations? Like, how can you make a great impact and somehow yeah, like you show the dance, and then maybe you have a petition, or you have some people having speeches, and how can you make people to act after seeing the dances? Have you had any experience with that?
I'm going to open that question up to all of us, but I just need to give Lynn some props first time, and those are the two questions that you're asking, limit oneself and partner with the Natural Environments Organization, you are speaking as if you are someone who has been doing this work for a very, very long time. Welcome to the family. Thank you for teaching, even in your newness. I'm cognizant of the time. We only have 7 minutes left and we have 2 other people, but does someone want to dive in and answer that question about how can a site leader or choreographer limit themselves? And if somebody else has experience working with an environmental organization, what was that like? And it really can be brief because we're gonna follow up with Lynn and everyone later. But if anybody wanted to jump in and tackle those 2 questions, go for it. And if not, that's okay too.
I'll say something here, Lynn. In response to your first question, my question would be to you, what is it that you want to say? When you enter an environment with water, how does that impact your body? And what is the relationship that you have with that ecosystem on a visceral level? That will inform you. So that's the first one. In terms of environmental groups, for myself, what I would do is I'd just jump on Google and have a look at what groups relate with water locally. And I may not limit myself to locally, you know, my ecosystem is coast, and, you know, my project is saltwater songlines. So I look at things like sea legacy or sea change or any sort of ocean group. So whatever body of water that you're working with, Google those type of environments and what bodies support anything, research or anything, awareness or relationship with those places.
Wunderbar. Rena?
Yes, just a short question regarding to the IMAN question, because yes, I am very much interested in the art movies and documentaries, and I have done one last summer, so I know exactly how much it costs, what's the production, and I just wonder, because if I apply for external grants somewhere, I need to have like a confirmation from your Global Water Dance organization or that I'm doing that. And if this will be available when I ask, you know, because I am going to search for grant support. I'm getting one now from Germany, but if I want to do really art movie, that would not suffice. And so I'm just wondering if this would be possible.
Vanya, do you want to tackle that? Oh,
sure, yes. Hello, everybody. I just wanted to say hi. Here is past midnight in the United States, but I wanted to really just come here and say hi, Kirina, CJ, that they are longtime collaborators with Global Water Dances. They have a lot of experience. And I wanted to say about the previous question from Lynn, that you can also watch our website. Check there. There are many, many, many examples of people who already did this, like Rina, Heike, and also from 2019. Yes, Hannah, I am also. Thank you so much for being here again. And that was one of the things that I wanted to say. And then to talk about what Rina was asking. And sorry, can you just repeat that the question that you had?
Just that if I apply for grant, I need some kind of a confirmation from you guys that, you know, that I am doing that and this is what's going on and that's the project.
Yes, so we offered letters of yes, that telling that you are the site leader in the specific locations, and we are, you know, like kind of getting that to you so you can apply for grants or for any kind of help. So don't worry about that. That's something that we can work together. If you know, even with a personalized letter, or yes, we have some templates, but also we work with everybody in the specifics and helping you to apply and do all that. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Paula.
So hi, everyone. Very quick questions. I've got two questions. So one is more technical and the other one is more creative. So the technical one is about when you mention fundings and that you're applying for partnership fundings. So so you mean that basically the potential funding that will become available will be to support GWD or as an organization, or you mean that you're looking into funding opportunities for actually supporting site leaders, so to distribute fundings equally to choreographer? This is my first question. And the second question is, so you basically say site leader, kind of like referring to a geographical location, but given the current scenario where basically we're all under like a global, you know, we're all connected by this global situation, I was just wondering if on the basis of this globalization, we can expand the geographical limitation into a wider catchment area. And then also on this basis, if we can look for collaborating with other people, like for example, if I want to collaborate with a video maker who lives on the opposite side of the world, but is still interested in supporting me and helping me to edit my videos, if we can expand the site leader into a global leader, because somehow we all are in this moment. And so global issue is a global issue. Doesn't have a 5 square meter boundary, is a global issue. And because we're all interconnected into this network, we're all responsible for change. On this basis, we can all collaborate, not limiting it to a geographical definition. Does it make sense?
Absolutely. Very exciting. I love your brain. I love the way that
That was lovely. That was great. I love that one. I love that one.
Right? It's really very interesting. I would say continue in that direction and you will end up doing something that is connected to the origin of global water dances, but also you would be encouraging us to think and work in ways that can move us into a future direction. Global Water Dances was inspired by Mary Lee Hardenberg's One River, Mississippi, where the Mississippi River, I believe, is, if not the longest, but one of the longest rivers in the United States. And she had, I can't remember right now, Vanya, help me out if you do. There were a number of cities in different states along the river where site-specific dance was happening. So if we're thinking about catchment, the catchment of the Mississippi River, almost the entire length of the United States, people were dancing informed by each other, inspired by each other. It was one of the reasons why global water dances ended up evolving the way it did. So it's in our DNA, is what I'm saying. What you're talking about is in our DNA. And I haven't seen much of that in the last 10 years. So being in the middle of a pandemic would be a wonderful way to look back and take it. Look back to the past and understand what we're experiencing now as we move forward. I think that's a wonderful idea. And it could be, okay, you can work with the video. Children, it could be that you're working with a videographer in another part of the world that is capturing images of water where he or she is, while you are capturing images of where you are and finding what is the connection. Is there a geographical connection? Is there a quality of the water movement that's connected, or you can work with the site leader, a Global Water Dances site leader in another part of the world. Really run with that, go with that, and use the Global Water Dances 2021 map for your inspiration. You can see the other site leaders that are registered and reach out to them.
I'm saying that because it would be easier to kind of like collaborate and, you know, kind of like connecting different pieces of a puzzle all together and finding resources on a global scale rather than minimizing it, narrowing it down to our geographical locations, given all the restrictions we are facing.
Yeah.
And then I'm open to collaboration, just I'm shouting it out. So if you want, I can give you my email address or whatever, but I find it's really the time to nourish this dialogue even more than before. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk together, let's work together rather than just theorizing. Yeah.
Fantastic. And if you wouldn't mind, definitely put your email in the, I'm so sorry. Amar understands what's going on with me right now. If you don't mind, put your email in the chat. And yeah, that's something right now I'm having a hard time focusing, but it's something that I can imagine happening more in a more organized way. If you don't mind contacting me, Paula, we met on the Mountain of Truth in Switzerland. If you don't mind contacting me and exploring this further, I'd appreciate that. To your first question about grants, I think the answer to that question is yes to both. In the past, we worked with an organization called Revival that helped to support many sites on the continent of Africa and one site in India, because it was an environmental educational organization, and they were really interested in exploring, learning from, and supporting water stewardship projects in this part of the world, in different cities in Africa and one city in India. They've dissolved since then, but that was one of our partnership organizations where we found an organization whose mission was aligned with ours, who had funding, and we were able to build connections between site leaders and their organization. The other funding structure that we have, not so much a structure, but one way to think about it is that when we find out information about funding, we put it on the website and we send the information to our community. And then the last funding structure is individuals donated money to Global Water Dances, and we funneled that money to sites who were specifically, I'm thinking again, Lynn, about what you talked about, who were specifically partnering with environmental organizations to have impact on their sites. So those are the three ways that we're currently trying to find financial support for our community, and we're going to continue to do that. I hope that answers your question. Kind of. Where'd you go? You jumped somewhere. There you are. Thank you all for sharing your emails. Definitely check those out. Those are people who don't mind being contacted directly. It is past the time, but I wanted to ask if there are any other questions. I wanted to ask Vanya if there's anything that she wanted to add as our fearless leader.
Hi. Well, I was wondering if you would like to move a little. I know that we are kind of in the time, but yes, Natasha, would you like to do maybe just the participatory dance.
We've got to do at least the participatory dance. I apologize for not organizing my time better, which would have given us the opportunity to do the global dance together. I want to point you to the For Choreographers page on the Global Water Dance's website, where you're going to see beautiful Vanya's front view and back view doing the new 5-minute version of the dance. Vanya, maybe we'll set up at some point rehearsal sessions just for the global dance. I don't know. But for now, thank you, Vanya. Let's say goodbye to each other with the participatory dance, which is a simple 4-movement phrase. And if you have to go, you have to go. This is super short though. This will take us maybe 2 minutes. You can stay seated if you want, or you can stand up. And we are informed and inspired by the movement of water, how it evaporates up. And when it becomes participation as snow and rain, how it falls down. And we are thankful that we can have the water wash our bodies and come into our bodies. And we are remembering that we are water connected like waves out into the ocean, sharing that water energy all around the world. So the clouds go up, the rain comes down, the water comes in, the water goes out. Around the world, the clouds go up, the rain comes down, the water goes out, in and out around the world. I gotta fix that. Water goes up, the rain comes down, the water comes in, and it goes out around the world. Last time, and up. And let's hug each other. Let's do a Zoom hug, hands to the corners of your screen, squeezing, squeezing. Thank you so much for your patience. Thank you so much for your energies. Thank you so much for your challenges. Thank you so much for your beings. Thank you so much for your hard work. To be continued. We have another webinar coming up in March that is going to be exploring ritual, water, and ecological stewardship. I'm so looking forward to seeing and hearing from all of you as the days go by. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Put on your mics and